So you racist fuck? You didn't like Captain America?
I didn't like Blacked in America 4. No.
Man, I've seen some ridiculously edgy tweets on Twitter.
Do you think that the negative reviews are giving leeway to more edgy takes like that?
I think that a lot of the people that are doing the over the top, bringing race into their reviews, they're just baiting being called a racist at this point.
Yeah.
Call me a racist so I could be like, these people call me a racist. It's played out, man.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, because this, in my opinion, this movie was so bad that you don't need to touch on any aspect of that whatsoever. Just talk about the movie.
And I liked this movie. I didn't really like it. I don't think it's perfect. On the scale of what we have gotten from the MCU in the last 4 years, this is nowhere near the bottom. It's not even close.
I have to completely disagree. I really think this is near the bottom. Not for a lack of effort, because they certainly wanted to make a good movie. It's why they reshot it so many times. But I think when you just put yourself in that position, well, you're going to get what you got here, which is just a very choppy movie. Honestly, it's just a shitty remake of Winter Soldier on nearly every single level. I recognized beats from that movie just playing out in same fashion, but just done poorly. And it was an odd sequel to a movie that came out 18 years ago that most people didn't like. It tried to be so many things at once.
I was surprised because I went with my girlfriend and she definitely does not remember or probably has seen the original Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
And she didn't mind it. Like, she didn't mind all the random stuff. I think she kept up with it pretty well. So they did an okay job bringing back the storyline from an 18-year-old movie and paying homage / paying it off in a certain way. I feel like there was a point in this script where the Hulk was in this movie for sure.
I do too.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. I have so much to say about this movie. I don't even know if I'll be able to get it all out in this conversation. My notes are just all over the place because I've seen this movie twice now, and I will have seen it a third time before my actual review comes out. It wants to be a spy thriller, but it's like a spy thriller written by 10-year-olds. It's like, and 10-year-olds by committee too. It's not like a movie made by one person with a singular vision. It clearly is a movie made by a studio. The entire plot revolves around a mystery that's instantly solved. Everyone knows immediately that when the president is attacked, no one who did it is actually accountable for it because they were under mind control. It's assumed immediately. And then the big aha moment is when they find out, and the answer is, well, he made technology that allows him to mind control people. Wow, guys, that's fucking amazing. I could not believe it.
I didn't mind that part. It's a little bit shallow, I guess, but it's not any less shallow to me than the elevator scene revelation in Winter Soldier.
I understand what you're saying, but the elevator situation is not the big aha moment equivalent in this. I'd say it's the exact same scene. It's a parallel when they go to, what is it called in this movie? Echo 1 base or whatever.
Yeah.
And then in Winter Soldier, him and Captain America, the real Captain America, and Black Widow go to that base and they discover the guy from Cap 1 is still alive inside the computer. That was the big revelatory moment in that film. I don't think the elevator scene was just more,
That's when you realize who's in
me.
on it.
Yeah. You see a bunch of people are in on it. But the big aha moment in this movie was literally figured out like 3 times. Like, you see it figured out by multiple people because Isaiah goes, "Oh, my phone was on the fritz." And you're like, "Oh, it was the phone." That's what it was. Yeah. There you go.
And then you have Danny Ramirez. I can't remember his actual name in the movie. You have him figured out.
Was it Joaquin? I think it was Joaquin because I've seen it twice now and Cap was yelling that multiple times. Joaquin!
Dude, okay. Anthony Mackey was way better than he had any right to be, dude.
Yeah, I have no complaints with him. I thought
he was surprisingly good as Cap, which I was ready to be like, yeah, he's fine, but he's not Captain America.
I don't see him as Captain America, sir, because I think the problem here is rooted in the writing of Sam Wilson throughout Marvel the MCU. Like Steve Rogers, you know who he is as a person. You know where he comes from because of the first Captain America movie. He's not just good for goodness sake. He was a skinny kid who got bullied and he doesn't like bullies and he sees Nazis as such, and he would be willing to throw himself on a live grenade just to save his platoon. And that speaks volumes about his character. Sam Wilson, you don't really still to this day know Sam Wilson in that way. he's a good guy, and that's it.
Didn't really like how they almost flip-flopped. Like, I wanted him to just be against the government. I wanted him to be like, oh no, these guys are bad, I shouldn't work with them. But by the end of the movie, he just circles back and is like, he saw the error of his ways. Now he's good. So I guess I'm cool with working for the president. I don't know. It didn't really wrap up any of the actual points that it needed to in that sense. I just thought more of along the lines of he led this movie and I enjoyed watching him. And I don't enjoy Anthony Mackie in a lot of things that I've seen him do. He is a very good side character, and I was really nervous for him to be the lead character of a movie, but him and Falcon had way better chemistry than I thought they would. He was a pretty commanding presence in a scene, more than I thought he would be, especially since he doesn't have super soldier serum. His fights were good. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that the fights are edited like shit.
I thought they were edited pretty poorly too.
You did?
I thought they were kind of slow and boring, honestly.
Okay, yeah. See, I kind of enjoyed the more slow because it felt like people fighting. Where when I go back and I watch Winter Soldier, it's dope because you watch Cap just like boot a dude off the side of a ship and he just flies into the abyss. But then the elevator scene, there's a cut like every half second. Like, it's
that was
crazy.
I totally agree. I can understand that complaint because the original felt a lot like a Jason Bourne movie, and those were edited. The editing was so choppy and fast, and they're really taking a lot of hints from those films. So,
dude, and also they put a lot of creativity and effort into Cap with wings. Well, I didn't think it would. I thought he'd throw around the shield.
No, I hate that because it's just, he complains the whole time about being human, and he has more tech than fucking Iron Man at this point. It was pointed out to me, he has Ant-Man's helmet. He has the tech of Iron Man and the tech of Black Panther combined, and the tech of Falcon. Like, get the fuck out of here. This guy is like geared to the hills.
They utilize it so well. It was almost like watching X-Men 97 when I saw Cyclops using his visor, and I'm like, oh yeah, if you put your brain to it, you could do pretty creative stuff. It got to the point in Iron Man where you're like, blast with lasers, here's some missiles, I'm gonna fly around. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's cool to watch. But it was kind of interesting to watch Marvel do something interesting with the suit itself, instead of just he flies away and he flies back and hits a dude.
His suit just felt like a Deus Ex Machina. Like it was going to solve all of his problems while simultaneously complaining the entire movie that is human. And I'm like, dude, Iron Man never complained that he was a human inside a suit, and you have more tech than he does at this point. The main villain, by the way, is supposed to be this super genius that's constant, but he's constantly been had by Captain America. Like he's constantly leapt over. Captain America figures out and solves all of the problems that he sets in front of him. I know that's obviously the goal in a superhero movie, but it's just like instant. There's nothing that he really gets Captain America on ever in the entire movie.
I kind of took that as almost a meta commentary on Anthony Mackie being Captain America, the improbability of all these things falling into place for him as like a person in the real world. And then they kind of transported that into the movie where he's always got like a certain % chance to get out of the situations that he's in and like end up where he should be. It's not well done at all because this guy's a super genius that he probably should have figured out how to box in Captain America without super soldier serum.
You would think that he would be able to defeat him pretty handily.
You'd think. And I wonder if there was a version of this movie where he did. I think this movie would be 15% better if they didn't reveal Red Hulk in the trailers.
I know, because first of all, it was clearly a panic button selling point because it's like, quick, we need something to make people want to see this movie. And then he's literally only in it for 5 minutes, just like people were saying and warning about, like, hey, been leaked that Red Hulk's only in this for a very short period of time. And he was in it for 5 minutes.
And you almost see every scene that he is in the trailer.
Yeah, you see the entirety
everything.
of it. Exactly. Yeah. You see the entirety of it in the trailer. They make Giancarlo Esposito a big thing in the trailer too, and he's in 3 scenes. And they're all like inconsequential, really.
You notice that his arc just doesn't get solved?
Well, because
it's like, I'm going to break out of this prison as soon as you go. And then you never hear from him again.
You never hear from him again. Like maybe in another Marvel movie. Yeah, because he was written in at least the second draft. He was not in the first draft. And I believe his character's name was Sidewinder.
Yeah.
Cool
I
name.
think so.
Cool name.
Cool name. Yeah. Cool character. Dude, he played it well. I mean,
yeah, because he can play that bad guy. They're just like, what does he do best? Oh, yeah, the villain. Make him.
I wanted him as Magneto, man. When there was the rumor he was going to play Magneto, I was like,
that would have been cool.
I was more surprised with the acting in this movie than I thought I would be. I was more surprised with the cinematography. There are some really good shots in this movie.
You actually think that? I know you have an incredible eye, so I'm actually shocked that you liked it, because I thought it looked like a CGI slop.
Where Isaiah is sitting in the solitary confinement, you got that little sliver of light. The bunch of the stuff with Harrison Ford in the White House looked fucking incredible.
Yeah, I can give you that.
Going to the base or whatever, like Echo Base, there's a lot of stuff in there that looks really good.
It's a lot of the nighttime, like in the darkness. Then because every shot you're talking about is like moody in the
they're like playing with light. Not a lot of Marvel movies do that. Usually it's just flat balls.
A lot of this movie was flat. Like
it was
when they go to Celestial Island. Like that looked like shit. And then
you thought, dude, I thought that whole sequence looked.
It just looks so fake. I think that's my biggest problem is like CGI. I really feel, and especially this movie represents that, is that it just has gotten so much worse than when I was a kid. And I don't think that's just nostalgia. I think if you go back and watch the original Jurassic Park, it still looks absolutely incredible. And you compare it to this, I'm like, yeah, it can be beautiful as a painting, but it looks like a painting. It doesn't look real at all.
I don't know if that's an artistic choice, but I also think people, when they notice CGI, that's when they think it looks bad. But when you don't notice CGI is when it looks the best. And I think there's a lot more of this movie that is unnoticed CGI that looks fucking incredible than people think.
When they're standing on the green screen, though, it's so painfully obvious. Yeah, it's so ugly. It's ugly, dude. It's almost embarrassing.
I mean, it's not as bad as the ending of Thor, which
like the first
I wasn't
Thor?
in the theater, dude. Love and Thunder with the floating black kid head.
Oh yeah,
man, that was like one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen, dude. Like it was I didn't burst out laughing in the theater, but the end, you're like, oh yeah, they threw this bitch together real quick at the end. But this movie took me by surprise. My bar was pretty low. My bar was low on all across, and it's giving me more hope. So this was like the last COVID era affected movie for the MCU. It's the last one where they're trying to tie in Disney Plus shit that I'm sure that they thought was going to play a bigger role, but it didn't end up being popular.
You could have called this like Captain America loose ends, honestly, because it's just exists to tie up a bunch of plot threads that fans have complained about. Like, hey, you guys forgot about this for 6 years, 18 years. Do something about it. And they're like, well, we don't really have a good story for this movie, so let's just tie up the Hulk and let's tie up Eternals and not really push anything forward for Captain America. Just kind of have him be there.
I don't think that's the worst thing, because I thought it was a really good introduction to Anthony Mackie being Cap. Like, I didn't need...
We already had that, though.
We already had it, but most people didn't, because most people didn't watch that fucking show.
Yet they still made you, because if you didn't watch that show, you'd be like, who the fuck is Isaiah? Who is this guy?
They quickly explained it. The random cameo with Bucky, and he's like, hey, I'm running for Congress now. I was like, oh.
I loved that, because in the videos you and I have made about this movie leading up to it and me predicting that it was going to be bad, a lot of people in the comments were saying that I was wrong, that Bucky couldn't be Captain America because he was a murderer. Well, what do you have to say now? Because he's going to be a fucking congressman. You're saying he can't be Captain America, but you're
JFK.
Yeah,
he killed JFK.
Exactly. So yes, he absolutely could have been Captain America. Shut up.
Depending on what they do with Bucky and Thunderbolts, I think it could be more interesting to have Bucky not be Cap, depending on where he goes. And if you're gonna relegate Captain America to less of a main character and more of like a rallying cry, you know what I mean? Because he's a human, he's not gonna be able to keep up in Secret Wars. But if he's the one that brings the team
he's
together,
got that suit, bro.
I mean, he's got the suit, so he can keep up a bit, but he's going to get his ass handed to him. He got his ass handed to him by Jets. Like, he's not going to do too much against Doom. We all know that.
I also have to say, on the basis of him being Captain America, that this movie seemed very insecure about him being Captain America, and they had to drive it home constantly. They constantly have to remind you that he's Captain America.
They're talking to all of you. I could literally feel the writers
that's how
being
important
like,
we are.
Yeah. Important / annoying. Which
whatever. Still important.
Okay, so they kind of do a speech at the end of this movie, and I was waiting for a "you got to do better, Senators" moment, and I was fucking dreading it. But the ending actually hit for me when he has this speech with Joaquin. He's in the hospital bed. He's like, like living up to certain things, and it just puts this pressure on me that I got to be more than people see me as, and I got to be even more than that to prove to them that I can be. And I was like, this movie, that moment at least, I think speaks to Black culture in a way. A lot of the people watching this won't relate because you're not Black, but there is a certain sense that like you have to prove yourself beyond proving yourself in order to be taken at the level that you should be taken at. You got to do like twice as much to be seen as doing the certain amount that a normal person would just be able to do. It's just how the world works. And I've always kind of known that.
It is how the world works. It's how YouTube works. I was just having this discussion with my girlfriend about like the biggest guy in our niche is Critical Drinker. And he dropped a video on this that's going to get like 1.5 million views in a day or something. And to get a tenth of that, you have to be 10 times better.
Yeah.
It just is what it is, though.
It was a well-written moment for that, though, where he's like, I'm taking on the mantle of someone else who was just here. And instead of, I'll move my hand into camera, like say Steve is here. In order for people to accept Sam as Cap, he has to be here.
I know,
he has
but
to
you
be
can't
that little
force
bit more.
that either. And
No,
that's
you
what this
can't.
film tried to do is like force the message instead of, I hate saying that, but like it's like trying to force you to feel that he's Captain America instead of making a really great film. I don't care how much you think this bangs. It's not the best Captain America movie. I can tell you that. And not even by a fucking long shot.
I don't think it's
missed it by a country mile, dude.
I like this better than I like Cap 1. Every time I rewatch Cap 1, I like the first half of Cap 1 and the second half
of cliche.
Oh man, it's brutal. The ending of that movie is a fucking mess. And I think a lot of people forget the way Marvel is structured. They've kind of shot themselves in the foot because they've raised the bar to a level that they've never achieved. And I think a lot of people have rose-colored glasses about how good, Infinity War was good. That movie rips.
Yes, it does.
Winter Soldier's right below that. That movie's really good. But other than that,
Civil War was up there too.
Civil War is like pretty good.
It's my favorite Marvel movie. I've rewatched it probably like 20 times, dude. In my opinion, it still holds up.
Every time Iron Man is like, you killed my mommy, and they start fighting, I'm like, God damn it, grow up, dude. Your mom's been dead for like 30 years. Like, what is going on, man? Like,
it's not just that he killed his mom, it's that his best friend lied to him.
Yeah.
About the most important thing that happened, most impactful thing in his life.
That's what I mean. There's good Marvel movies, but the majority of them are pretty middle of the road action movies.
Yeah, I agree. But I've made this argument before, which is that the ones that were important were very good. So you get through those middling ones because they are connecting to the ones that are important and great.
And good. It's true. We haven't had like an
Avengers
important
movie to tie it together.
Yeah, Avengers or like a huge event movie to tie this all together. It feels more like the lead up to Secret Wars is them just being like, we just got to get to this.
Yes,
we just got to get there.
Please, God, let us get there. And this movie felt like I said, it made by committee, not by a person with a singular vision. So it felt like it was pretty choppy. And Disney's too proud to take a tax write-off, so they just went with it.
I don't think this should be a tax write-off. I think they know they're going to lose money on this movie. I think they always knew they were going to lose money on this.
Do you believe the $180 million budget? That's absolute fucking lie.
I struggle believing that they put $400 million into this.
I don't.
I'm like, maybe with all the reshoots.
It's because of the reshoots. I would agree, if not for the 2 reshoots.
It's probably somewhere in the middle, though. I could see it being like 300, 350, which is a lot.
That's so
but
crazy.
I also feel like it was Feige being like, all this movie has to do is tread water. It can't be a fucking train wreck like Love and Thunder or like the Marvels.
It's the third worst reviewed Marvel movie.
Which it does not deserve to be. Dude, okay, in the last few years, man, She-Hulk, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Thor, Love and Thunder, the Marvels, but even not movie, like just talking movies. Dude, Ant-Man and the Wasp? Are you serious? That movie is garbage.
I totally agree. Let's see. Ant-Man and the Wasp is 46. It's worse than this. So
thank God, man. I think the Marvels is higher than this, though.
It is 60%, dude.
I thought the Marvels was watchable. I'm one of the only people on earth that thought that movie was watchable. And I try to watch these things. So what it comes down to is a lot of people, rightfully so, watch MCU movies as a whole of the MCU. Like you're comparing it to everything else that's happened, how much it affects everything. But I try to watch these movies just as self-contained movies, and they're a lot more enjoyable if you do that. It's just too much right now. It's just too much.
But they don't let you forget about all the other movies, because this one was tying up loose ends from like 4 different things. They're trying to.
And it's like, it's got its hands tied in that way. And again, like when you were saying it's just tying up loose ends, I think that's just them doing that before they get to Secret Wars, because they're like, we got all these fucking loose ends to tie up and we just want to get this shit over with. So let's just dump it all in one movie, because we can't do it in Thunderbolts. We can't do it in Fantastic Four.
Introduce X-Men essentially through adamantium, fix the Eternals plot hole about the Celestial, and tie up the loose end from Incredible Hulk that no one cared if you tied up that loose end at this point. It's been 17 years, dude.
See, that's where I think this movie was pretty much Captain Hulk movie. Like I think it was gonna be kind of buddy like they did with Love and Thunder, where like Hulk is almost the main character, but we can't, for legal reasons, make Hulk the main character.
Right.
But it just wasn't working, and they couldn't figure out an ending. They were like, oh, we got Red Hulk tied in here so thoroughly through the entire plot that we can't just cut out the villain.
God, you saying that just reminds me, like, everything's so painfully obvious in the movie. That's why it's a spy thriller that's not a thriller at all, because you know exactly what's going on. As soon as I saw Ross eating those pills, I was like, oh, Gamma's in those. That's how he becomes the Hulk.
Dude, that's the fault of the marketing. I picture a world in where I didn't know he was coming. Though. Oh, I know. Yeah, you can't get away from how it was marketed, but I don't blame that on the movie itself. I blame that on the studio. And yeah, you can tell that there is so many studio hands in this movie, but that's also where I come to defend it, where I'm like, so many things should have gone wrong with this movie, that the fact that it came out, like the story is coherent, the filmmaking is coherent.
It's stupid and simple.
It's stupid. It's stupid and simple. It's stupid and simple, but it was enjoyable for me in a lot more ways than I thought. And the fact that it wasn't, this should be a disaster. This movie should be the worst MCU movie. This should be way worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp. But somehow, I don't know what editor they have on this movie that sat in a box for like 11 months straight trying to piece together 4 cuts of this movie.
Yeah.
Dude, but they did a crazy good job.
But it's still a choppy mess, because characters are introduced and go nowhere. Like Sidewinder, he's set up to be something and he's really nothing. And the head of security, I was bitching to my girlfriend about it in the theater. I was like, this 5-foot, 80-pound chick is going to kick everyone's ass, right? Oh yeah, of course she does.
Dude, when she's walking out with Sam and Joaquin and she's like 2 feet shorter than them and like 80 pounds, I was like,
what the fuck? It's like the most unbelievable part of the whole film.
But her choreography was fucking dope, man. It was kind of cool to see Widow-esque choreography again in a movie.
They tried to get away with it by just being like, oh yeah, she was part of the Widow program. Like, shut the fuck up.
She was not supposed to be. We all know, if you watch the news at all, if you keep up with entertainment news at all, we all know she was supposed to be a superhero. She was supposed to be
Israeli superhero.
Israeli superhero. Man, I am happy they cut that out. I'm a little bit of a lib for that shit.
To give the movie credit, I really am glad they didn't lean into the politics of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm glad they decided to not do that and just have a bad movie on its own merits.
Man, I saw multiple people on Twitter being like, this is just an analogy for the Trump administration and how Disney hates it.
They cut that.
No, you got to dig so deep to get to that conclusion. Holy hell.
That's literally what they removed from the movie, because they were trying to do that. Now, one could argue, and I did make an argument before the movie came out, that it was going to suffer because of that, because then it has no convictions to stand on, and it really doesn't.
It really doesn't. If they had just given him his own fucking movie and didn't try to tie everything up, I think Anthony Mackie really did a good job with what he had. And I think there's clearly talent behind the camera. There's talent in front of the camera. And it's just the fact that they were trying to stuff so much into this movie. If you take the Hulk out of this and just give it an ending with the Sidewinder and it's more mystery, that would be pretty
That would have been great, because that's, it wanted to be all the things at once, and it wanted to be Winter Soldier real bad. And it's like, well, stand by Sidewinder then and have him be the lead villain, because in Winter Soldier it was better because it was, they're super soldiers, but it was human versus human. Like that was the big climax. And here it's Captain America versus fucking Hulk.
It just feels like this movie is between a rock and a hard place. And
It
somehow
totally was. That's why I
Yeah.
suggested not making the fucking thing.
but you have to. That's the thing. Is you have to make this movie. He has to have a movie as Cap before you get to Secret Wars, or people won't know what's going on. So this movie had to be made, and it had to address all these things. And it's just an impossible task that I think is way better than it has any right to be, considering the weight that it has on it.
See, I don't think you needed to do it because he was handed the shield at the end of Endgame. So if when you got to Secret Wars, it could be assumed that he had taken up the mantle, and now you see him as his first appearance as Cap. I wouldn't have complained
That's also
about that.
so long ago, though. Your average audience is going to
Dude,
be like,
this movie's a sequel to an 18-year-old movie. What the fuck?
yeah, that was so unnecessary. But also, it was good to see. Is his name Tim Roth? Is that the actor's name?
No, that's not Tim Roth that played what's his face.
Oh,
in
right,
this
right, right.
movie.
That was the
Tim Roth was
Abomination.
the Abomination. Yeah,
Yeah. Whoever plays Big Brain guy in this movie,
I can't take that
leader.
guy fucking seriously at all.
I couldn't, but he's a good
can't.
actor, man.
When he's like worm's eye view shot, when he's going it had me cracking up. It was so
that
bad.
was a little weird.
And he also had the Madam Web villain voice that happened in Amelia Perez, and now it's happened here where the villain or the bad guy, he's got to talk like this. You know what I mean?
Did you know there's gamma in the pills?
Yeah. Well, why don't you just stop taking the pills? But you won't, will you? God.
Man, Harrison Ford was good though.
He's pretty good. He's fun.
Yeah, Harrison Ford's pretty good. This movie's getting more hate than it deserves, considering what it is and what it had to be.
I think it's getting exactly what it deserves.
I can see why people don't like this movie, but I can also see why people do. So
I think it's fair to have higher expectations of something that's been great before. And Marvel has been great before. And I think it's fine to expect that from them, especially when you haven't had it in so long. It's like, when are you guys going to finally drop the hammer and make something with some balls again?
I was kind of saying this before, but I feel like the bar for Marvel is higher than a Marvel movie has ever been. I think people remember Marvel movies as something that they have never been. The initial impact of having all of this happen, having an interconnected world with multiple characters, and it culminates, and then the culmination culminates into another culmination, and it's like the biggest fucking thing ever. It was just so hype as a situation and an idea. Even I remember all of it as way better than it should be. And when I rewatch it, I'm like, these are good, but it's not what I felt like it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to bring my girlfriend through an abridged version of the MCU timeline.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, we're doing like 9 or 10 movies, not 40.
Okay, yeah.
So I hope when I
so many.
rewatch them, that I'm like, man, these movies really still bang.
There's a few that still bang for sure, but I definitely think the bar is up here, and Marvel is usually right here. And people are expecting it to be up here. And I understand the expectations, but I don't know if Marvel will ever live up to the expectations that people have anymore, because I don't think they ever have lived up to the expectations people
really
have.
enjoy Deadpool and Wolverine and Spider-Man No Way Home and Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I would argue Deadpool and Wolverine is not a very good movie.
Well,
it's very
entertaining.
entertaining.
But it's entertaining.
That's where I think this movie lies too. Where like, this movie's not a good movie, but I was fucking entertained.
Oh no, I can't even say that, because
not even close to Deadpool and Wolverine, but different. It was different
in a bad way.
Dude, I thought the action in this was better than the action in Deadpool and Wolverine.
I completely disagree.
Really?
Yeah, because
there's actual choreography in this.
Yeah,
do you remember that bus fight, dude?
Yes, but it's way more fun watching Deadpool and Wolverine fight each other, and it was way more fun watching Deadpool dance to fucking NSYNC and kill people than it was to just see basic, I've seen this a million times, human versus human fight choreography that actually is done pretty fucking slow and tediously.
Realistically. I'm going to go with realistically. We'll drop the full review as soon as, Cynic gets on that shit.
I'm getting on it.
Whip it all together. Yep. It'll be out later this week. So if you guys like this video, tell us to do more, because I'm trying to convince him to do more of these videos, because they're fun.
This is fun. This is good fun. Yeah.
Peace.
GG's.